Hey guys, welcome to the channel. It's Jack with Stronghold Strength and Conditioning. And today, I've got a full body natural mobility training routine for you guys that you could do pretty much on the regular every day if you really wanted. But before we get into it, make sure you take a moment and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Thursday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance. And that includes little workouts like this. So jump on it. It really doesn't get much cooler than that. Ready? Let's go ahead and dive into this. Alright guys, so today I've got a full body natural mobility training routine for you. And when we talk about mobility, we're looking at how our joints and soft tissues are functioning together and the actual control that we have over them in end range motion. So mobility includes some strength, it includes some flexibility, it includes some range of motion. And you'll get a little taste of all that in these movements and positions. These are going to be some of my favorite movements and positions that I do pretty much on a regular basis. But if you guys want to understand a little bit more about mobility, kind of the systematic approach that I would take with clients, then take advantage of my 7-day mobility training challenge. It's down below in the description. All you got to do is drop me your email, sign up for it, register, and you get 7 free days of mobility training. 15-minute sessions pre-programmed out for you, and it teaches you the systematic approach to mobility that we would want to take. So it's guiding you through in a mini course, giving you those practices for the next 7 days. So take advantage of that. It will also help you identify where you're currently restricted in areas that you might not know you actually had restrictions and not even realize that some things that are limited could be causing you problems, those aches and pains that you're getting, or putting you at risk for injury and overall killing your performance. So take advantage of that. Down below in the description, the 7-day mobility training challenge. For today, all you're going to need is a mat, no equipment, maybe a water bottle nearby if you want, and we're going to be spending about a minute in each position and each movement practicing as we go. Ready? Let's get into it. Alright guys, get comfortable and settle in because here we go. We're going to be starting off with the feet. It's one of our most limited and dysfunctional places that you find on people these days. So we're going to try and open those up with just a little toe splay here, interlacing the fingers between the toes. Now this might be a little bit uncomfortable at first if your toes do not have that mobility. Just know that's natural. What you want to do is still try and get those fingers in between, and as deep as you can, as they open up more and more, squiggle those fingers down in tighter and tighter toward the foot. So getting a nice deep interlace of those fingers and toes. What I'm doing with the free arm on the other side is actually prying myself open so that I'm getting a little stretch through my hip and oblique on that right side, and a little spinal movement here just to begin with. So give a little pry with that arm, help push yourself open and apply a little stretch on that far side there. What you should feel with the toes here is as you stay in this position longer and longer, you gain a little bit more range of motion in that position. And that's what we're hoping for as we hold here. What we're going to do is switch sides next. So go ahead, once again, interlacing the fingers between those toes and then setting up in that 90-90 position. To modify the 90-90 position, you can also just put a pillow under the butt if you have trouble sitting with that leg in the back position in internal rotation. This will allow you to ease your way into the position and gradually, eventually take it out. So once again, I'm just kind of pushing in, applying a stretch through that left side. You might feel it in your hips here in this position. You might feel it through the obliques, into the ribs, through the spine a little bit in that stretch. All those are okay. Just looking for a bit of a stretch and a little bit of in and out movement in those positions as we hold here. So go ahead a few more seconds, and then we're going to be going into what's called a shin box. Once the shin box comes here, we're going to be letting go of those toes, and now I'm simply elevating my hips from the ground, pushing off both legs to drive up into a tall kneeling position. What I want to feel is my glutes engaging as I get higher and higher here, and I'm trying to engage so that I'm giving a nice little stretch or you might feel a little bit of movement at the hip itself there, as far as maybe some stretching at the capsule. That's what we're looking for as we drive up into that flex of the glutes here. Now, if you need assistance, you can also hold on to a coffee table or a sturdy post out front as you do these. That's perfectly fine, so adjust if you need to make it a little bit more doable for yourself. All right, go ahead and switch sides here. So we're swinging that right leg back out front, left leg to the back, a 90-90 position, about 1 foot inside the knee there, and I'm driving up from the hips there. Now you can notice my back leg, I do have my foot in a plantar flexed position. If that's comfortable for you, go ahead and use that. You can also do this with the foot open. Those are 2 options that we can use from this position here. Once again, assist yourself as needed to make the position doable in the first place here if you're having any challenges or struggles. Very good. Next, we're going to be coming into a sissy and Seiza movement here. So first of all, start in your sitting Seiza position, and that means plantar flexed ankles here, deep flexion of the knee, and you can see I'm just kind of wiggling back and forth, so I get a little bit of hip and knee movement in this positioning. Now, if you have trouble sitting to the knees in the very first place here, just place a pillow behind the hamstrings on the calves and give yourself a little bit of space in between in that position right now. Eventually, that will open up more and more, and you can take that pillow out. As you'll see here, even just from this little bit of movement and this little bit of wiggle side to side, I'm getting a little deeper and deeper each time, with my butt getting closer to the floor. And that's what we're looking for there, is a little more range of motion opening up at the hip there, a little more depth at the knees. Your ankles might be your limiting factor, and that's okay. Just know that eventually we can open those up as well. Now here we're going to add a sissy position to the Seiza, and what I'm doing is driving my hips up. I have my fists down with my thumbs toward my knees there, and each time I drive up, I want to make sure a couple things are happening here. My glutes are doing the drive, so I'm focusing on my glutes engaging to press my hips up nice and high. My quads are going to get some work in this position, so eventually you might start to feel your quads add up after a few of these. And my shoulder positioning, I want my elbows rolled down and in toward my rib cage with my thumbs placing forward, so my shoulder blades are squeezing on my upper back here to give a nice solid positioning. I shouldn't feel like my chest is caving at all, or that I'm rounding inward toward my sternum. Next, we're going to take that right arm and place it in the middle, back behind the feet there, and reach overhead with the left arm. And I'm going in and out in this as well, so I'm drawing my elbow in toward my hip as I sit down, butt to heels again. And then I'm reaching out long overhead, pushing through the floor from that right arm, getting a nice big arch in that position, and driving the hips high from those glutes still. So the quads, this is where they might start to feel a little bit more and more, but we're opening up with rotation in this position here. Good, now switching the reach. So now my left arm is going to be down as my right arm reaches up overhead here. Once again, focusing on a nice strong hip drive. So I want to try and push from both glutes as equally as possible, really flattening out the hips, making sure the rotation is coming from the spinal column above and not my hips. and you'll have to take and check there that that's actually happening. The arm on the floor pushes away from the ground, so I don't want to feel like that shoulder gets jammed up into my neck or my ear at all there. And that's a nice long reach from that right arm as well. So we're really lengthening everything out as much as possible with strength in each position as we're at that full stretch there. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and give those legs a little break here. So we're gonna come to an all fours position. And what I want you to do is start with some spinal articulation. So I want you to tuck your chin to your chest. We're gonna push the floor away, rounding the upper back as much as possible and letting the scapula glide over the sides there. And make that nice rounded position with the glutes engaging as well. Then we're gonna go to a nice arched position. So what I want to do is dip so that my belly hangs low, my chest opens up, and then my neck, my head and shoulders look up toward the ceiling or up toward the wall out in front. And we're just gonna transition between those two positions. So here, nice and rounded, pushing the floor away, caved chest, caved abdominals. You'll feel the abs engaging pretty hard in that position if you're doing it well. And here we're gonna feel the upper back, mid back engaging real tight to pull into that arch as we really create global flexion of the spine and global extension. Next, we're gonna go a little bit wider with the hands here. And what I want you to do is play with a stiff arm, okay? So keep those arms straight as much as possible. The scapula can move freely on the spinal column here. And we're just gonna do circles, reach back, but the arm stays stiff the whole time. And we should feel a few different things. Not only do the scapula move freely on the spinal column, but we should also feel the head of that humerus moving in the glenohumeral joint there. So we've got the scapula, the glenohumeral joint with that humerus, the head of it moving, and then we have the clavicle that meets there. And those all articulate to make our shoulder joint work the way that it does, which is pretty incredible with the amount of range of motion that it should have and the capacity that we have to load it. All right, still from this all fours position, we're gonna make it a tripod now. So bring the knee into the center between the hands here. So one knee of the right leg here we're starting with is taking all the weight, and it's driving the weight from the knee up into that hip. Now once I feel like I have that pressure, it should feel like the head of my hip is kind of like pushing out into my glutes there maybe. You might get a stretch in that position. You might feel stuff at the actual crease of the hip itself, that inguinal crease. But what we're gonna do is make a C shape, and I'm kind of drawing an arch from the outside around as I move up a little higher and then back a little bit lower, and just testing that hip capsule in a few different ranges here as I move about. So just play with what feels kind of good as you move in there. You might feel some stuff, and you just want to go through that a few times if you do. Very good. Now go ahead and switch the side. So once again, center up that knee, get all the pressure driving up in toward that hip there from the knee through the floor up into the hip. And now start to draw that C shape, and you can see it a little bit better from this angle. That outward push I kind of do on the hip, and then I circle up toward my shoulders, coming back in and then back down and up. So keep playing with that, find what you find, and slowly make your way through it. Alright, next we're going to lie belly down here. Make sure you're reaching your left arm out with the thumb down to the floor, making a fist here. And what you'll notice I'm doing is flexing and releasing my triceps. Here we're trying to bring balance into triceps and biceps, opening up the chest at the same time. So my right arm is helping me kind of hold open in this position. My right leg is planted flat-footed on the ground, and I can actually feel my glutes engaging to hold that leg positioning there. You'll see I've changed my hand positioning, so now I'm trying a few flat palm position here. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a roll as well from thumb to palm just to kind of play with that. Now bringing that elbow to a 90-degree position, this is where it's gonna get the tightest for us here. And you're gonna feel a lot pulling at the front of the shoulder, in the pecs there. Still just do your best to relax as much as you can, not letting that shoulder jump into the ear. All right, switching sides. Once again, starting with the thumb down, fist made, and then we're flexing those triceps and releasing. Each time we flex, we want to flex a little bit tighter, a little bit longer, up to about 5 seconds even holding that position. The left foot is planted, knee toward the ceiling, foot flat on the floor with 3 points of contact, and I'm pushing it through the floor so that I can feel my glutes engaging on that side. Remember to switch so that the palm also goes down in this position, and then toward the end of the minute here, we'll be going up into that field goal position as well. Take your time. If one position feels better than the others and you want to work that right now, feel free. All right, very good. Next, we're gonna reach those arms up long overhead here. What I wanna make sure I'm doing is spinning my elbows toward the floor, or imagining them at least coming in that direction. This is gonna help my shoulders in this overhead positioning. From there, I want my chin to the floor, and I'm looking up. You can see me looking at the wall there, with my chest dropping to the floor and my belly opening up, dropping to the floor as well. So here we're getting a big thoracic extension stretch here, and we're feeling those scapula actually slide down on the upper back, down together toward the mid back, and those muscles are going to be engaging to stabilize in this position. That's what we should feel. Now, if you're getting blocked by your shoulder itself, you might feel some impingement or some restriction at the actual top of the shoulder where that AC joint is. That could be jamming you up a little bit here. So just do the best you can. If you need to, you come out of it sooner than later. Good. Take a nice deep lunge here now with the arms extended toward the floor. We want both hands inside the foot, right along the leg here. And what I want to feel is a little bit of a movement, rocking back and forth at the hip to start, just to get warmed up here. You might feel some stretch at the hamstrings, some at the glutes. If you feel like it opens up enough for you to go down to the forearms, I want you to take it a little bit deeper and go into the forearms there, just to relax as much as possible with a little bit of that rock back and forth, side to side. Good, go ahead and switch sides. So now I have my left leg in line with my hands, starting out long again. New side, new sensations. So give it a chance to kind of settle in here again with those long arms. When you feel ready, you can drop into the forearms again. What you want to note with the back leg is that you're internally rotating the hip or spinning the hip so that you're actually trying to put the small toes down to the mat more than the big toe. So you'll see that we really are looking for the small toes as we internally rotate the leg that's back here. And we're down to the forearms now if you're able to. If not, take your time in that tall position. That's perfectly fine as well. Just getting into that stretch, feeling that hip, giving a little rock back and forth. All right, from here, we're gonna go into a deep squat position. Now, if you need assistance with your deep squat, what you can do is hold on to a post and or arm of a chair, whatever you got to stabilize yourself there. Our deep squat is extremely important because we're looking at the dorsiflexion of our ankle and the ability to hold this position with our knees in deep flexion and our hip in deep flexion. You can add a little rock side to side. What you want to feel from your feet is 3 points of contact on both feet. So the first metatarsal behind the big toe, the fifth metatarsal behind the small toe, and the heel. That makes a nice tripod foot on each side to give us stability. And even as I shift here, I still want to feel those 3 points of contact holding the ground so that I'm able to actually keep that connection. My knees are driving wide, keeping my legs open as much as possible. And in a deep, deep squat, you are going to have some flexion of the spinal column, which is perfectly okay. When we load up, it's a little bit better. We won't go as deep and we won't get that flexion. All right, coming to your back here, what I want you to do is overlap one arm over the other underneath your lumbar spine. Get your abs engaged here, your feet are planted, just relax there. And then we're opening up the chest and shoulders, pulling to the floor as much as possible. This one might be pretty intense. What we're showing here is your internal rotation of the shoulders and your ability to get into that position. So if it's intense right now, just know that this is one that you need to be working on to restore that positioning. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves at risk, especially that rotator's cuff. All right, very good. Bring those arms out from under there nice and slowly. Take your time. And now we're bringing the arms into a 90-degree position up by the head here. We should feel the back of the wrist to the floor, and that is our ultimate goal. My abs are engaged once again, and here I'm going to begin to actually slide the elbows down toward my ribs as low as I can go before those wrists really start to try and pull up off the floor. So you have to keep yourself honest here. What usually happens if we try and cheat is that our knuckles will reach for the floor and our hand compensates for our lack of range of motion at the shoulder in external rotation in this position. Now as I reach up overhead, what I want to see happen is that my thumbs come toward the floor here so that we're rotating overhead once again in that externally rotated position, which is our most stable position in the overhead positioning. And just doing a few reps down and back here between those two positions. All right, and there you guys have it. A full body natural mobility training routine that you guys can do on a daily basis to help start to open up end ranges of motion that you didn't have before, strengthen around those joints in those end ranges of motion, and overall improve your flexibility. That right there is the definition of mobility. And if you guys like this video, make sure you let me know by clicking that big thumbs up down below, and take a moment to share it with a friend who you know might like some movement and mobility practice as well. Make sure you take advantage of the 7-day mobility training challenge down below in the description. It is 7 days, that mini course that will guide you through the systematic approach to mobility training. So there's more to it than just doing practice and movement to make it the most efficient thing, and that is what I'm teaching you in that mini course. Take advantage of it. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on future content like this. Every Thursday, I'm putting out videos showing you how to resolve aches and pains, prevent injuries, and overall optimize your performance, and that includes workouts like this. So, jump on it. All right, guys, welcome to the Stronghold Army. I'll see you next week.